Welcome to the Pastured Pig Podcast, where we share the successes and challenges of raising pigs on pasture. We talk to producers all over the country, from small homesteads to large commercial pasture operations. Whether you're new to pastured pigs or have been raising hogs for decades, we hope you hear new ideas and new perspectives on pasturing hogs. Here's your host, Troy McClung.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Pastured Pig Podcast. So good to have another episode out, and it seems like the weeks just fly by, especially in these summer months where there's so much going on. It seems like every time I turn around, another week has passed or some other crises has popped up on the farm. But excited to be back and looking forward to just keep plugging along. Well, I want to do some updates and stuff before we get into our interview today. And I want to give you all an update on our red wattles. For those of you who've been following the podcast or our channel for a while, you know that this is our first year with red wattles. They've been doing really well, and I'm very happy with how they are managing the forest. I know that sounds like I'm putting too much stock in what they're doing, but they really aren't hard on the ground. Especially right now, I have them on a pretty steep slope, helping clear out a lot of underbrush. And they are doing a great job. We've had copious amounts of rain and have not had any erosion issues associated with that. So really happy with what we're seeing. Can remove them to a new pasture that's well established. They'll have a lot more ground. Excuse me. And then we'll be reseeding that area that we're moving them off of a couple days before we actually move them, so they can stomp some of that seed in the ground. But really happy with what we're seeing there. They're scheduled to go to, well, I haven't actually scheduled it yet, but on my calendar in pencil, we're looking at the end of September to get them to freezer camp. And I'll share the turnout of that when we get our weights back and all that fun stuff. Just some basic housekeeping stuff. Remember, we have our Patreon page if you'd like to support the Pastured Pig Podcast. Really appreciate all those who do. Some of y'all have been on there for a very long time, and man, I appreciate it. It really helps cover the nut of the expenses associated with this, and of course, just keep some motivation there to keep plugging along when there's 16 other things that need to be done. It is a good motivator there. So if you'd like to support us for as little as $5 a month, you can do so. You can see the link down in the show notes here. Along that same line, we've got our Facebook group, The Pastured Pig, growing day by day. Good posts, good commentary going on there, good discussion. Should be sure to check that out if you're on the demon social media of Facebook. Also, we still have our The Pastured Pig website, classified ads. I've set that up to test, and there's been good entries. The question is how much people are interacting with them. Facebook goes back and forth on whether you can sell online or not within groups, outside of groups. So there's some warnings we've gotten, but it's really tough to figure that out. But give me some feedback on that. If you find it valuable, I'll keep it going. If it doesn't, then we can just say, well, that was a test, and we can move on from it. But check that out, thepasturedpig.com. Okay, so one more thing. This is something I'm hesitant to even mention because this is about as transparent as I can get, and it's going to, we'll just see. It's kind of put up or shut up. But we are launching, Red Tool House is launching a new cooperative in our county where I'm organizing a group of farms that sell products in the manner that we feel is congruent with how we raise our animals and products. And we're going to package those, and we're going to start selling those direct to consumer in our Charleston, West Virginia area. And that's the largest metro area in the state. It's just 20 minutes from our farm. And there's nice demographics there. So what we're going to be doing is offering weekly delivery services to the home, directly to the home. People will place their orders online on our website. If they order at a certain cutoff during the week, then their order will be in that Saturday delivery. They pay online, all that type of stuff, so no cash changing hands with the delivery drivers. And we'll be offering all of our products, so our pork, our chicken, our eggs, even some baked goods and some other value-added stuff. And I've got another farm who's producing beef for us. Actually, I have two farms that are producing beef for us. Another farm that's going to help us with eggs, and another farm that does maple syrup production. And in the discussions with some other farms, one has a very large strawberry production in the spring, so may have him ready next year. So the whole point of me bringing all that up is this service, of course, is something new. It's requiring digital setup with a website. It's requiring marketing. So we're going to be doing direct mail. We're going to be doing digital marketing in these key neighborhoods where we're going to target and try to saturate. It's going to require email communication. It's going to require delivery management. It's going to require relationship building with these farms, and it's going to require good profit and loss analysis, because we want to make sure our other farms are making money, but I'm the one footing the bill to build the customers and communicate and provide all the technology. So we'll be doing a wholesale retail type situation. So what I want to do is I want to detail that as it unfolds on Patreon, and those will be audio updates that I'll do and just release. And I will say, okay, here's where we are, here's what we started with, here's what we've got going on. And then when we launch at the end of this month, then I'll give the updates. Did we hit the ground running? Do we have a long road to go? And in that audio, be sharing the gory details of what costs. It'll almost be like a audio diary as this unfolds. So everyone that's a supporter of Patreon will be able to access those audio files and hear the updates. And as a special treat to our top tier, because we've got some diehard top tier people, and I recognize that I need to take care of you guys more than everybody else, because you guys are really, you're footing the largest chunk of money, and everybody in the top tier has been there for the longest time. So what I'm going to do is, for the top tier, I'm going to provide the documentation. So I'm going to put the direct mail marketing on. I'm going to put the digital marketing details on. We'll put cost analysis. We'll get agreement details of businesses that we're doing with the other farms. So we'll have all the documentation that backs up the audio. So I hope this will be beneficial for y'all, and just kind of see real time how it plays out, so you guys can be voyeuristic and see. And of course, if it falls flat on its face, then this will just be a couple months update. If it takes off and grows legs and continues, then I'll just keep it going, because I'm really excited to see this. And in my 20 years of marketing, I've never done marketing for myself at this caliber, at this degree, where there's this much investment of money and time and effort. So I do want to share that, because I think there's going to be a lot of lessons learned here. Even me, who's supposedly the professional at doing these marketing services, I'm going to learn quite a few things, and I want to share that with you all firsthand, so you guys can get hopefully some benefit from that. All right, so check that out. That'll probably be starting up here the end of July, 1st of August is when we plan on hitting the ground running. So we'll have our first series out there, kind of the pre-flight of what we've got invested already, and then detailing as we go along. Well, today's interview, we are going to zip over to West PA, not too far from us, about a half day's drive. And we're going to talk with Eric Bennington of Heritage Homestead. And Eric has a neat story. He and his wife, his family, they left the rat race. They were doing quite well for themselves in Delaware County, in the Delco area, in construction and real estate and all that type of stuff. But Eric really felt the need to get out of the rat race. And so he moved to Western PA, and he's now farming. So pretty cool story, but I'm going to let him tell the rest of it, and I'll catch you guys on the flip side. Welcome to the podcast, Eric.
Hey, how you doing, Troy?
I am doing well. So West PA, that's almost exactly north of me. I guess, actually Cat's Whisker east, but are you close to the Pittsburgh area in that neck of the woods, or are you further east?
Yeah, so we're about an hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes northeast of Pittsburgh. Actually, when we moved towards West PA, I wanted to stay within an hour But we found this little town, and it's a really nice town. We really liked it. So
Very cool. All right. Good. Yeah, there's some beautiful country up in that area. I love the further or closer you get to Erie, that just seems gorgeous up in that area.
yeah, we haven't been there yet, but I'm hoping this summer to take the kids up there because being from Philly, we go to the shore in Jersey, and everybody tells me how nice it is up in Erie. So we gotta, yeah, I really want to go there.
Yeah. I'll say I've been to both. Yeah, I would probably choose Erie over Jersey Shore, but I'm a Southerner at heart too, so there's maybe something to do with that. So,
Big old lake. Yeah.
if I had to choose one, yeah. All right, so tell me about Heritage Homestead, and let's start a little bit kind of where you are now with the property you have, but then we'll go back and talk a little bit about your history, because you already mentioned Philly, but why you're where you are now. But first, tell me about your property setup and what you're doing with pigs right now.
Okay, so we have 40 acres. In the future, we'd love to get more. We have 25 pasture, 15 wooded. Couple acres of that wooded is, I always hear you and other people from West Virginia talk about ravines or hollers, as I think you guys call them.
Yeah.
Some of those are real steep. Like we don't like the kids going down there. Not yet. They're not old enough. So they're not usable, but it's a nice little property. It sits on top of a hill. It has great views. All the pasture is really nice. I'm staring at a bunch of it right now and some cows. But our pigs, most of them stay back in the woods. We run them on about 10 acres. We basically just rotationally run them through the woods.
Mm-hmm.
Once they tear it up, we move them on to another one. We don't really use too much of a time scale. Really, I look at it based off of how much, how much green have they destroyed, how much feces, stuff like that is on the ground, and I basically time it out like that.
Yeah.
We still do some farrowing up in barns, which I'm trying to get some space set aside for farrowing, and that's something that hasn't came about yet. But we've had them strictly on our pasture before, but the goal is to separate them and really keep them into the woods, like you would not raise pork.
Yeah, because you're using your pasture for other animals as well, right?
Yeah. We have cattle. Really, it's for cattle, and then we do some meat birds, and then we have an assortment of other animals that my wife wanted me to buy goats, which is just don't buy goats; they're bad.
Yeah,
I
would agree with
sell
that.
them. Yeah. If anybody's in the market for goats, contact me. Have them. But yeah, it's like I said, it's a beautiful little town. The weather here is a little bit different. Like it's very dry right now, whereas Philly's a lot more humid. And then throughout the winter, it is much, much colder. I wasn't expecting how much colder it was throughout this winter. So we definitely had a few challenges with that. It's actually the coldest temperature I've ever experienced in my entire life. In all of my 32 years, that was the coldest few days I've ever had. So that was fun.
So are you close enough to Erie that you guys get some lake effect snow? Did you have a lot of snow this year?
We do. So we're in something they call it like the I-80 corridor.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So we basically get blasted from the north and from the south, both either heading from southeast and northeast.
Yeah.
And we get a lot of that snow. They'll get more of it because I have a buddy that lives towards Erie. They get a lot more than we do. But there was a day that our boar, his shelter, I went out to feed him. His shelter, the roof had blown off of it.
Oh no!
And I think it was negative 10 degrees, and but with wind chill, it was around negative 40.
Wow.
And I had icicles frozen off of my eyebrows and my eyelashes. I took pictures of it. It's like in the movies. It really does happen. Like
right.
If it's that cold, you will get icicles on your face.
Yep.
I had to fix it. So, and that's part of having a farm is it had to be done.
Yeah, for sure. So what when you got this place? How long have you been on this property? And when you got it, was there a lot of infrastructure in place already? You mentioned barns, or did you have to kind of build everything from scratch?
No, so luckily there's an equestrian barn. There's like 6 stalls in there with a little office, which is really really cool. And then there's a 110-year-old or 113-year-old actually. It's just one of those big barns. I think some people call it a bank barn.
Yeah.
It used to be a dairy farm.
Yeah.
And so the previous owners used the equestrian barn with 4 acres set up behind there, right on top of the hill. In the future, we might actually just turn that into gardens and make that into a greenhouse. It depends on what happens. But So there was those 4 acres, which was really nice. As soon as we moved here last summer, we moved here last August, so we've been in here less than a year. We could just, because we had a bunch of piglets, and we just opened up the trailer, let them go in. They were already trained to the line. I was kind of nervous that because back home we had like the yellow and black wire, the polywire.
Polywire, yeah.
Here, most of it is the high tensile stuff.
Yeah.
I was kind of nervous that they weren't going to know, but they got shocked a couple times and they figured it out real fast.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So, so it sounds like you had some decent infrastructure in there, but you brought pigs with you when you moved from East PA. Is that correct?
Yeah, I paid a guy, basically. He brought a really long livestock trailer, and livestock. I'm starting to talk like these guys out here. Yeah. He brought a really big trailer, and we just loaded them up. That was quite the battle, but we do it a couple times a year anyway. So, and yeah, like I said, we just backed them all up. The only thing that we've really built here are a lot more shelters, like shelters for down in the woods, shelters for the breeding sows, and for our boar, and then setting up all of the line in the woods, it's actually pretty easy. Realistically, we use the trees, so I'll put a block of wood on a tree, I'll screw it in, and then I use kind of the landscape to decide where I'm going to go. Luckily, we have a couple spaces that are. Like there's one 5-acre spot that's pretty much, it's shaped like Manhattan, or it's shaped like Jersey, kind of like it's just like a one big, there's a stream that runs through it, and the edge of the property is right there. It's like a perfect spot to just jump pigs back and forth. We have a stream down there too, so all of our water I get from that stream. So where some of the pigs are right now, I've literally dug almost canals out and created large wallows and drinking areas for the pigs to get the water. The water is great. We have a natural spring at the one side of the property. Some of our water actually is that water as well. Obviously, we have filters on ours, but they get whatever we don't use, which is most of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that sounds great, man. That's a great asset to have there. That saves a lot of money and a lot of effort.
A lot of freezing. It's never frozen. Even over the winter, it's never frozen, which is awesome. Any of the pigs that are on top of the hill and aren't in the woods and aren't, don't have that water down there, that's still a hassle. We still end up doing the same thing as hauling out buckets to them and stuff. But if we have, 20, 30 feeders down there, hauling that much is that's insane. I don't understand how people do it. Right. I guess they have to put in water lines.
Right. So what's your experience in raising animals? Again, it sounds like you've only been here on the property for a year, but it sounds like you definitely have some experience back at your previous property.
So we lived outside of Lancaster, PA for a couple of years, about 2 years. So we've really only been doing this for, I think altogether we've been doing it for around 3 years. So whatever the 3 years minus 9 months, whatever that is. Over there, we had 5 or 6 acres. We rented the land off of an Amish guy, and we ran a few pigs. We had probably I think we did 10 to 20 feeders that year. I can't remember. We had a couple litters. We had a lot of trouble with it, a lot of learning curves. At first, I wanted to do IPPs or a Cooney, something smaller, and then I ended up getting a sow that was a Burke Hereford cross. Her name was Butterfly. She was just like an incredible pig. And I loved her temperament. I loved how she acted. The Coonies weren't nearly as fun as she was. Realistically, they're very reserved, whereas this pig was kind of more bossy and playful. And it kind of changed my mind, and we just started bringing on other pigs. But back there, we did, we had Rhode Island Reds for laying, which we still do. We had sheep. The first week that I moved there, I came from a row home right outside of Philly. If nobody knows what a row home is, it's basically houses that are all just touching each other, and it looks like just strips. It looks like you're in a beehive for miles. And we came from that, and within the first, I think 5 days of me being there, I bought like 5 or 10 Katahdin sheep and just dumped them out in the pasture, and that kind of started it for us.
Oh, I love it. Yeah. Just dive in head first, man.
Yeah, we wasted a lot of money. What's funny is you always hear podcasts, and I listen to all sorts of different podcasts, and they always say, like, take your time. And it's always somebody saying, like, hey, I made all these mistakes, take your time. And it's funny to sit here and say that now because we did make a lot of mistakes.
Oh, yeah. Yep. I can speak to that too, man. Yeah. if people would just take advice of the people that have done that already, then they could save a lot of time and money. But sometimes people have to learn. But yeah, that's good. That's good. No, I like that attitude of just can do, jump in and do it, and have at it. So let's real quick, because I still want to come back and talk a little bit about the evolution of why you crossed Pennsylvania, but getting back to the setup of your pigs. So you've talked about having a sow who's a Burke Hamp cross. So what have you settled on, and how many pigs do you have now, and what's the breed you're staying with?
So right now we have one boar, three sows, one sow, two gilts, because we actually just got processed one, and we wanted to bring another two on. And then for feeders, I think down in the woods right now we have around 10 feeders, and then we have another 6 or 7 that are in the barn right now, and they'll be going down there. We're actually low on feeders right now because we ended up having a sow that would not, she wouldn't take over the winter. So for months she wouldn't take, and finally we had to process her. So we're actually, we should have around 6 to 14 extra pigs right now. So we're actually in the market for some. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, we do anywhere for the goal this year is to do 30, 40 feeders, and then to keep 3 sows, 2 fairings each a year, and just to keep my one boar on. Yeah. We've thought about mixing in some other genetics, like through AI, stuff like that. But the breed, we've had all sorts of things. That we have an old spot. She hasn't been bred yet, but we wanted to try that. Our boar is a Berkshire Duroc cross. He's mostly Duroc with a little bit of Burke. He looks almost completely Duroc if you were to see him. He's beautiful. He's a great big boy, great for conformation, great temperament, everything. And then we want to stick with Burks. So we want to do basically Duroc Burke crosses, because that's something that we really like. The meat quality, our customers, every time we've had that, they always say the same thing. The marbling's great. The meat is incredible. And that's kind of what we want to go with.
Yeah. Yeah. Good deal. Good deal. All right. So let's talk about this. I think this is interesting. So people may have already picked up on this. So yeah, you're not a multi-generational farmer. You didn't grow up on a farm. You're not farming full time for your income, but you actually have an interesting story where you guys were outside of Philly and were in a totally different line of work, and explain that a little bit, and why you wanted to get out of that and move to the other side of the state and focus more on farming.
Yeah. So yeah, like you said, and like I've said, I am from Philly. I'm from everywhere from West Philly to Southwest Philly, all the way towards like the southern end of Delaware County, if anybody knows what I'm talking about, which is along the Delaware River. It is not country whatsoever. You have some like hint of suburbs, but it's mostly like a very city feel. You drive through it, it's the city. That being said, probably like 12 years ago, I really started just having like this push towards a much more traditional life. Like I didn't like where I grew up. I really didn't like how I was brought up, honestly. So I really knew that in the future, like I wanted to, whenever I had a family, I wanted to get away from the city. So I started construction, doing roofs and, in masonry and interior renovations when I was probably 15 years old, working full time. I got out of school really young. Fast forward, 10 years later, I had my own business. I had a kid. We actually moved to Florida for a year. Just to be closer to my wife's family, who her grandmother and her mother have had a vacation home down there for years. Her mother ended up moving there. There's a ton of cattle down there, ton of orange groves. So we figured, let's go down there. We can probably buy land cheaper than up here. Land's definitely cheaper. But it just didn't work out for us. It was the same thing, kind of like with just jumping head first into the farming thing. I'd never even been down there. I just said, you know what, I'm just going to pack up all my stuff and we're going to go. We got down there. We stayed there for a year. It was nice, and it really just being in that environment, like with very people that were much more traditional. A lot of them were very religious. They were very nice people. I really clung to these people. I really liked them. And I loved the atmosphere, the environment that I was in. Everybody down there had chickens. They all had pigs. They all were doing stuff. It was just very different. So we moved back up here, and We restarted the business up here, which was an interior renovation business, and we basically specialized in working with investors, some homeowners, but mainly working with real estate investors and turning over flip projects. Basically, you buy a house for this much, or you acquire it in some way, you fix it up, you sell it for a profit. So after a couple of years of doing that, we really had that down. You know what I mean? I had the trade down, I had the numbers down. So we started then a few years ago, we started buying our own investment properties as well. For a couple of years, that went really well. We made a lot of money. It was fun. Honestly, it was a lot of really like a huge headache. My wife knew that I was like really stressed out. I was getting stressed out all the time. And then, probably a year or two ago, we started a wholesale acquisitions company, which basically it's like the we buy houses thing. So we dabbled in that as well. And I had 2 guys making phone calls and sending out letters constantly all day. I had a few guys working on investment properties, and then I would basically drive around the properties and check on these properties. And then I would sit on the computer all day and either call people or go over numbers and things like that. And for a while, I thought that this is what I wanted to do with my life. Like this was it. I wanted to be one of these guys that were like on Instagram and they had all this money and the cars and they knew everything about real estate. And I really thought I wanted to do that. And then, like I said, around the same time we really were getting deep into real estate and we were doing well, we started raising livestock. This is around 3 years ago. We started raising livestock. We started keeping chickens and we moved to a bigger property. And I just fell in love with it. Like I didn't want to do anything else. All I wanted to do was hang out with my kids all day. And a lot of it is work. Everybody who listens to this, or if you don't, this, it's work. It's extremely hard work. And sometimes you're chasing a pig. Sometimes you're chasing a bull. It happens. It's dirty, but there's just something so like primal, primitive about it. And I didn't want to do the other stuff. I didn't. So basically, 9 months ago, we were looking for a new house and we decided we might do the real estate thing, but I want to make a go at owning a farm. Like I want a real farm. I want to make profit. I want to run it just like I ran my other businesses. I want to take that experience and that knowledge and sales experience as well, and then push that into and transition that into farming.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. That's great. So what made you choose that side of the state? Was it just because of property availability, the cheaper land, just a change of pace?
So originally we wanted to stay within an hour of a major city. And it was because we didn't want to stop the construction or the real estate business 100%, at least not yet. So we wanted to be within an hour's drive of a major metropolitan area. So through looking around the state and also to get a mortgage, it's easier too, like to stay within your state. The type of mortgage we got. Also, we were looking towards other states as well, but we really liked it up here. We liked the people. We liked the school. We homeschooled back home, and before we moved out here, we went and me and my wife interviewed a few teachers and a principal. To be honest with you, like we sat down with them, we talked to them about a bunch of stuff. Like we want to know your curriculum, we want to know what you're teaching our kids. So we really loved this town. We walked through, it's got a main street, only a few blocks, which is just the coolest thing in the world. Cause it's something that, being from the city and really loving like that country lifestyle, going someplace where there's only a few block main street it was so picturesque to me. It's like, I could seriously see my kids like hanging out down here. Other than that, it was really just because it was relatively close to Pittsburgh. And then there was a couple areas like Indiana and Du Bois that are not too far away. And then there's another few neighborhoods around here that are relatively high income. So it doesn't take me really far to get to a few neighborhoods that have very high value houses, which I can capitalize on. And if we ever want to jump back into investments and I'm still running the construction business, I can use these people for work. And that was basically it.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great, man. I love that. Doing your homework, checking out, keeping that criteria, saying these are absolutes, and then these are things that we can negotiate, but using all the criteria to find where you wanted to be and move from there. So good stuff. Yeah. Good stuff. Okay, so a little rabbit trail, and indulge me if you would here, because of all the interviews I do and people run into and consulting and stuff that we do when it comes to homesteading and farms and things, people have this barrier that they think they can't get past. And as a construction guy, as a guy that's made his living from that and has that experience, speak into that a little bit, if you will. So when people say, I don't have any skills when it comes to building or construction, I don't know how to do basic carpentry, I don't know how to do any of this type of stuff, so I feel like I'm inadequate or I won't be able to do the things I want to do if I want to homestead. So from a builder's perspective, how important is it to have that skill? But B, what would you give some advice, or what advice would you give to people that think that's just beyond them? They don't have they're all left thumbs or whatever the case may be. They don't have the coordination or the skill to be able to do that. How would you speak into that?
So honestly, it doesn't take a genius to do a lot of this stuff. And that's like really bluntly, you're going to mess up. Like if you want to build, like I always make a joke to people, like I could build your house tomorrow. You just got to give me 2 helpers and a bunch of money. But most of the things that you're going to build, the materials are readily available either at a lumber yard. That's out here. There's so many lumber yards. In every country area, there's a ton of lumber yards, and there's Lowe's and Home Depots everywhere. So most of the material that you're going to need is always there. Always go with Milwaukee tools because Milwaukee are the best. Realistically, you're living in a day and age where there's a YouTube video for everything. Yeah. And it sounds scary. And I would say it's actually sometimes harder for a guy like me to go out and tackle projects because there's so many things that I want to do and I know I can do, but right now maybe I can't do it. And it almost like you get into like this, like you're stuck because of indecision. And it's like, well, I want to do this, but I can't do it, but I don't want to waste this, $2,000 building this when I could wait a year and then do it like this. And you kind of get into that like indecision. So I would say sometimes it's actually harder if you do have a little bit of experience because it's, you might be a little more slow on the draw to get things done because you want to do them perfect.
Interesting.
Realistically, yeah, just jump right in, just do it.
Yeah.
Like I said, and if you have somebody around you that you can ask for some help, trade some pork. Tell them like, hey, look, it's going to take 6 to 8 months for these guys to grow out, and I'll give you a half of this pig and it's worth this much money if you come out and spend 2 days with me and just show me how you're doing this. That's what I would do. Is I would try to barter and create relationships. Yeah,
very good. Yeah, great advice. Definitely, and I agree. You got to start somewhere, and very good point about YouTube. It's amazing the resource that it has become over the years when it comes how to learn stuff. Like I've turned a wrench ever since I was a teenager and feel like I know my way around a car, but man, it'd be ignorant to say, hey, I'm going to go out and do something to the truck or to my son's car. I'm going to go ahead and check a YouTube video on that just to make sure I'm doing it right. And it's no matter how experienced you are, there's always some little trick or some little skill that somebody has. Like, oh wow, that's going to make that easier to do, or I wasn't expecting this little obstacle, and that video is giving you that experience. So yeah, good advice. So let's talk about, and you mentioned you have polyculture there, and while we are the Pastured Pig podcast, I talk regularly about how important having polyculture on your farm is when it comes to the business model, because it helps you with cash flow. It helps you pick around seasonal stuff. It even helps with customer supply and demand. So from that perspective, where you have polyculture, what is your income goal? Are you building a customer base now to sell wholes and halves? Are you doing cuts? Are you packaging it together with your other stuff? Are you looking into wholesale? What's your angle there?
So right now we do wholes and halves, but we want to build a facility. My house. So the one thing about the house that we didn't like when we moved here is that it's very close to the road. It's a good thing and a bad thing, right? So it's bad because, hey, maybe you can hear a car, or my wife doesn't like it, but it's good because from an advertising standpoint and getting like those local sales. That's another thing out in the sticks, especially out here. Everybody wants to buy from somebody, their neighbor, and they can see what's being done. They can see it. They can look and say, this is how they're doing it. So for us, we want to get licensed to sell cuts. We've already talked to, my wife called him and then he called me. I think it's the USDA guy. I can't remember. But it's like for our area, he told me the requirements, and that's a project that I'm still basically getting the scope of work for. It's just like we just talked about before. It's it's that preparation. It's like realistically, he told me throw up a sink and a fridge and you can sell cuts. Yeah. But I want to build a nice little shop. You know what I mean? I want to make something. I want to make sure that I do it right. This way we can have a shop. So right now, like I said, it's holes and halves. And then in the future, we want to do the small shop where we can do cuts out of. And also we're always all over the place. We're looking at right now, how would we package some of our stuff and sell it back to Philly? Because we sell a lot of holes and halves to Philly. So we will, because we have a lot of friends and family down there, and we were a part of a lot of, groups of people that were very homestead, organic food, they had that mindset. So we use a processor in Indiana, and we literally will go pick them up and then drive them there. And then, they pay a fee for it. That right now is not scalable. It's really not. So we need to do it a different way. And that's kind of what we're looking into. Other than that, we have a couple similar to what we're trying to do, but on, they're on a bigger scale, small local food stores that sell like local honey, local meats, ice cream. Some of them do, like one of them, they buy our pork from us, but they do their own beef. So like, we just love getting the emails when it's like, hey, a local raised product, raised with no soy, no corn in their tortillas that they're selling this Saturday night. Something like that. Like, and it's just really cool. So we kind of touch all of them right now. Where we're going to go in the future, I don't know. I mean, really, for us, it really depends on what makes us the most money. With wholesale, we don't make as much money off them. I sell it at a reduced price, but the difference is that they'll buy 10 of them at a time. Yeah. And that's what's great.
Yeah, exactly. And I want to talk about that a little bit more, but I do want to point out something real quick, because I know a lot of people aren't familiar with Pennsylvania geography. When you say your processors in Indiana, you're talking about Indiana, Pennsylvania, correct? Indiana,
PA. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Sorry about that. Right, yeah. I'm not going to Indiana. Back to Philly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's not driving that far to have his pigs processed to another state. But Indiana, PA. There's a university up there. I think I used to do business with back in the day. Yeah, named Indiana University.
It's a cool
town. So the wholesale thing, and this is what I think's interesting, Eric, and that's why maybe let's camp out on this a little bit. So the wholesale market, I know. We haven't had many people in all the 100 plus episodes we've done. We haven't had many people really say, well, wholesale's where I want to be, unless they're in a major metro area and they've gotten great relationships with either organic markets or restaurants or those type of things. So where you're located and what you're doing, how's your angle of approach on that? What are you looking for? Again, we know the benefit is buying in bulk at a lower price, but it's less customers that you have to deal with. But what's your angle of approach? How are you going to, with your sales experience, how are you going to approach that?
So if you have, if you're doing, let's just say you're doing, average fairing, right? 10 piglets. You have 10 pigs, you're running them. You have to do all of the same work that you have to do 20 of them. So if you have your regular customers that maybe you sell 10, 20 wholes or halves a year. Oops, sorry, 1 second. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're still there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's right.
So if you have this space and this time that you're already putting towards doing 10 of them, if you could find a local restaurant that would be willing to either use your pork or sell your pork in their cuts, why would you not take it? And if you still know that on our wholesale, when we sell, we lose about a quarter of our profit per pig. But for us, it doesn't matter. Like for me, I'm still making money off that. I'm still spending my time down there with the other pigs as well. And realistically, if I could get to a point where my profit is going to be the same, if I have to run, if I could do 30 wholes and halves, or I could do 40 at wholesale to local restaurants and local, organic food shops, it's much easier to just sell to all them instead of having to deal with these multiple customers, having to deal with individual people that are only buying maybe a half or a whole. That you're using so much of your time. So you're basically trading dollars for time. Yeah. And for me, my time is very valuable. So if I can lose a little money but save time, I'll just use that time to do more, honestly, make more money doing something else.
Exactly.
Or just bring in more pigs, build more infrastructure. So, and really like getting those clients really isn't that hard. So again, coming from wholesaling and real estate, you can something that we used to do all the time was it's called cold calling. So we would use it's called a lead funnel. So you basically find you start with every single person in the world, and then you're going to narrow it down to every single person in your state or every single restaurant in your state, and then you're going to look for who are the people that are most likely going to buy what I'm doing. Say if you're doing we're not raising them in a feedlot. We're doing the woods or pasture. You take pride and you have integrity in the way that it's raised. Maybe you're using non-GMO feeds. However you're doing it, you then start to target those places that are going to think that your food is important. Not everybody's going to do it. When we got out here, we've talked to some people and they're like, oh, that's all that city stuff because we do a non-GMO, non-corn, non-soy organic feed and it's much more expensive. But there's plenty of restaurants that love our food because they can market it and they can add they can add a very high markup on our pork because of the way we raise it. So we started cold calling, we like I said, you look for those restaurants and those shops around you that will find value in your product. So you have to, like I said, start with every restaurant within 200 miles, and then start to narrow it down to through Google or Google Maps or some kind of search engine, organic food stores, natural holistic food stores. Use all of these search keywords. Make a list of all of these places, and I mean you could have 50 restaurants and start calling them. Just pick up the phone and start calling, and that's what we do. Yeah. We just call them, and then we tell them this is what we do, this is what we can provide you. These are our prices. Are you interested? And yeah, you'll get a lot of people that turn you down and say no, we're not interested. But 1 out of 10 people are. If you can find 2 stores that are going to take even 10 pigs a year, something like that, like, even at wholesale prices, you can still make a few $1,000s off it.
Yeah, no, and that's great. And my goodness, you've thrown out a lot of things here. I'd like to kind of unpack a little bit. So you said the cold call word, which I know some people just absolutely gasp. I could never do that. I don't have the personality to do a cold call. But so let's talk about this real quick. So. And we won't role play, but give us some key pointers when it comes to cold calling. So you found, again, you've used your sales funnel, you found the low hanging fruit, the people you think are mostly, they're the center of your target. They're mostly going to relate with your product that you offer. So you said you tell them about the product, tell them about the farm, give them some pricing, and ask them if they're interested. So that is obviously a pretty quick pitch, I assume. Not an elevator pitch, but it's not a long drug out thing. You're trying to get those keywords in front of people so they can respond. But when they say, yeah, I'm interested, what's your next step at that point? What do you do after they say, okay, yeah, I am a little interested. What else you got for me?
So for us right now, because we're not doing cuts, it's really for us, from a logistics standpoint, it's based off of when we can get them the product. Mm-hmm. And that's a problem that a lot of, your listeners, us and other people who don't do cuts are going to have the issue with. Hopefully, like I said, in a few months, we're not going to have that problem. But really, it's about coming to a good price point, making sure that they're okay with your price point, making sure that they understand the value of it. And then really, like I said, it's all about logistics and making sure that you can serve them properly. And to build a relationship like that, you're really on you're not on the back end of the relationship, but you have to understand that at this point now you're running a service industry. So you have to understand that their time is valuable, and if they're going to use your product, that you have to make sure that they feel that you're one, that you're providing value, 2, that you understand their needs, and 3, making sure a lot of us, like, if we come from this world, this homesteading world, and you're using, like I said before, these natural ingredients, everything else, sometimes you hear people that are kind of smug about their meats. It's like, well, look, there's other people that are doing this. So make sure that you understand that they are extremely valuable to you. Like, if enough of these people can really change, they can change your life. They can take you from where you're not doing a day job anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's good. Having those key points there, proving that you're competent, proving that you recognize what's valuable to them, your potential customer, and then just having the confidence to be able to express that as quickly as possible and as succinct when it comes to some of those key points. So I know without cuts, and this is, I don't sell wholesale at all, so this is actually from some of my own morbid curiosity as well. So do you find those restaurants saying, okay, I'm interested, but I want a sample, or I'm interested, but I maybe just want long and hog from you first to test out. Do you run into that much?
Yeah, we have, and we always meet their needs. Yeah, I mean, we always, so we keep a large amount at our house still. But for legal reasons, I'm not allowed to sell cuts,
Sure.
quote unquote.
Right.
But so I mean, yeah, we always have some at the house, so it's not very hard for us to, say. And then also, if you're giving it away, it's completely different.
Exactly.
If I'm giving it away, like we have another store not far away. We just talked to them the other day, and they want us to do a pop up. Basically, we're going to bring some produce, bring some pork, coolers, everything else. And yeah, we'll see. And we want to advertise for the pork. It's very hard to do it. So we've thought about different ways. How do you advertise for pork at a pop-up? So we have a bunch of different ideas on how to do it. There's, like I said, there's a bunch of different ways around it. But yeah, we run into that all the time. And I don't mind giving away pork. Like I said, like I don't care. I would lose a whole hog if I had to make sure that for the next couple of years, they're going to be buying at least a few from me.
Right.
I'm not going to do that. I'm not just going to go giving pigs away to everybody, but it's just about understanding, like, that's how a business operates. Sometimes you have to really, you got to eat some crud, or what's that saying? You kind of have to, you just kind of have to get out there and do it, and just maybe take a loss to really gain something.
Oh, exactly.
Like I said, for me, it's always been weird because we've done so many businesses, we've done so many different things. It's just for me, it's like, it's never really a big deal to just kind of get out there and do it.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree. And looking at those loss leaders to be able to get in front of your customer and have those regular touch points, that's what we run into with our farm. That pastured eggs for us is our loss leader. I don't make a profit off eggs when you factor in my time, and so it's one of those things to say. But I have customers each week transacting with me, so it allows me to have that regular touch point. So when it's time for pork to be ready or to introduce a new product, then they have that comfortableness with me. They have that regular weekly communication in place. So it's no surprise when I call them and say, hey, I now have pork, or I now have beef, or I now have these things available. So yeah. I definitely see what you're saying.
No, yeah, you're absolutely right. So one of the easiest things is, so when you go to a grocery store, the way that most grocery stores are laid out is done by a corporate entity hundreds of miles away. And the reason is that they want to make sure they're maximizing what you're going to sell. Just like you said, those touches. So if you go into, when you're in the grocery store and you go in there for something, everybody knows this. It's something, it's a common trope that everybody talks about. So the aisle that you're checking out in, there's a reason that those things are set up the way that they are. And it's because they want to get you to buy something. And they make a lot of money on a lot of those things. Yep. And that's the reason that they're there. And it's the same, just like you said. So this is why we've started to bring on so many different things, because we've had some of our customers contact us and say, hey, I was talking to somebody, he does beef. I was just wondering, like, I didn't even know that. They think they asked, do you do beef? So it's at this point, it's like, well, yeah, now we do beef. Like we brought on cattle just because, pork is delicious. It's great, but I love steak, and most people like steak as well. So if you can basically double your sales, or with a steer, it's even more, to the same people, to the same shops, to the same clients. You just saved yourself a lot of time, and it's just helping to grow your business.
Yeah, definitely. Good stuff. Well, Eric, let's look at this. So we know here in the future, you said getting into being able to sell cuts, looking at possibly building a shop to sell out of, take advantage of your frontage that you have. But what else here in the next 5 years do you see as a goal for what you're doing there with your farm?
So meat birds, and a CSA and produce. I want to increase the pigs as well. How many that we do, I want to double it within the next couple of years. And in doing so, I want to buy more land, to help do that. But other businesses here, things that work in the same business, it's meat birds, CSA / our a market garden.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, so looking at, again, diversifying your things that you're making available to have a broader product availability. And that CSA will be interesting because CSA's normally kind of hang out in the vegetable side, but obviously you're going to be able to have a broader product offering there once that CSA comes online with vegetable and protein and all those things that you offer.
Yeah, so that's kind of one of the thoughts of it is that, so we actually started advertising when we first moved here for it, but this year we have so much stuff going on, so I decided to, it wasn't me, my wife kind of decided, to be honest. And it's like, I think you're really busy, I think you just need to, because we do so much stuff, you know what I mean? We breed German Shepherds, we have all the animals. I actually I've been training martial arts, Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu for like 10 years, so I help teach at a gym, so it's like, my day is just completely stacked, and it's just really tough. Like, we don't ever have time. I mean, we incorporate the kids in all of this. I don't want people to think I'm just like, a dad that never sees his family.
Right.
But so we had a bunch of people, and that's kind of how we did it, was that, hey, these are the other things we're going to have, and if you are a part of the CSA, this is the discount that you get. And that's kind of how we did it at first, is a discount. But going forward, yeah, I think what would end up happening is, no, they would just be a part of almost like a cow or a pork share.
Yeah.
And that's what it would be.
Yeah. Good deal. All right. So before we wrap up, I obviously got to ask you the question I ask everybody, and that is, in your experience so far with pigs, what is your favorite thing? What do you most like about raising pigs on pasture?
What's really funny is I thought about this a lot today, this question. And I have so many answers, but I think one of them is the versatility of them. And this is from more of like a business standpoint, is that there's so many different feed options. There's so many different things you can do with them. There's so many different ways that you can raise them. So in different areas, different climates, like they do really well in so many places. From frigid temperatures to high heats, from woods to rocks to sand to everywhere, they do great. But from like a personal, it really is their personality. I always said if I ever was going to stop, I shouldn't, this is blasphemy, I know, if I was ever going to stop eating meat, the first animal would be a pig, because they are just incredible animals. Like, it's fun to watch them,
right.
Like watching our little Berks fight each other. It's the cutest thing in the entire world, watching these 2.5-week-old piglets just go at it. So they're just a cool animal. They're like really, really tasty dogs.
All right, that's definitely the best quote I've heard in a long time. Very good, and I would agree with that. Yes, the personality, the playfulness. There's nothing like moving them into a new section of pasture and just watching them carry on. It's fantastic. Pig TV is better than anything. So.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah.
All right. Well, man, I really appreciate you coming on the podcast. If anyone wants to find out more about you, do you have an online presence yet? Is that something you're still building, or how can they find you?
So we have my wife is still working on the website and all that stuff, but you can follow us on Instagram on Becoming Trad. Just BECOMING TRAD. And we do a lot of stuff, marketing on there as well. We do a lot of stuff, but it's really about kind of like a journey from, coming from the city and my background to where we are now. And but we're trying to get much better with that.
Yeah. Good deal. All right. Well, man, I appreciate it. And we'll definitely have to follow up with you next year when you get some of these other things in place and just see, kind of get an update from you to see how things are going.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to come back on. Like I said, I love the show. And we were talking about things before. I mean, like, shows like yours are really, I mean, they're one of the, big things, like, that build confidence, especially in me, that made me want to say, I can actually tackle this. I can do this. Yeah, I mean, I appreciate what you do.
Good deal. Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate it. And, man, I pray you have a good evening, and thanks for coming on.
Well, I really appreciate Eric coming on the podcast, enjoyed his story. And if you would like to be on the podcast, I'm actually getting some capacity here. I'm running a little short on interviews in the queue. So if you've reached out to me and somehow I've overlooked you, it's not that I would deny that I have, because there's a lot of emails that come through. And you haven't heard from me, give me a shout. Hit me up again and we'll get you scheduled. And would like to keep the queue going here, so we'll have other episodes to share with you all. Just go to thepasturedpig.com or redtoolhouse.com, or you can just email me directly at troy@redtoolhouse.com. Well, I pray everyone have a great week, and if you're in the area of the country that's roasting heat. I hope you and your pigs are cool. If you're in the area of the country that's deluged in water, I hope you and your pigs are buoyant. God bless y'all. Take care.